From the Oklahoma newsroom, this is an OSU update. I'm Jenny Carlson here with OSU beat writer Nathan Ruiz. Nathan, big win for the Cowboys on Saturday in the Big 12 SEC Challenge, getting a win at home against South Carolina. At this point, any win is big for this team with all the attrition that they've had, all the personnel losses. But watching rotations, again, this is the second time we've seen this team since those 3 guys were lost. What did you notice about the rotations?
Yeah, you know, it's a team that's dependent really on 5 or 6 guys. They have a couple of their players filling in freshmen Duncan DeMuth and Luke Major, but for the most part, they're relying on 6 guys. They're 5 starters and Curtis Jones, and on Saturday, they really relied on that main 5 of Isaac Likely, Yornay, Thomas Azagua, Lindy Waters, and Cam McGriff. Those guys played the first 7 or so minutes of the second half, and then played basically until the 5-second mark, the last 8 minutes of the second half. So Mike Boynton really relied on them. Fortunately, OSU was able to avoid foul trouble, and that put them in the position to be able to do that in the first place. But it's a game where OSU relied on its main 5 players when it needed to. Obviously, a game the Cowboys needed to win. Still, we're looking for their first win since the dismissal, obviously, of 3 players. So, and then they lose another player we learned over practice this week, and Trey Reeves suffering a broken foot. So, a tough situation for Mike Boynton, down to 7 scholarship players, and just trying to navigate through that.
Well, we'll talk about Trey Reeves in just a second, but the way it looks right now, Nathan, they're almost assured to have a true freshman on the floor basically at all times. I mean, there's just not enough pieces to move around to avoid that. What's the challenge in your mind for the Cowboys to have that reality basically for the rest of the season? Yeah,
the only situation in which a freshman is not on the floor for the Cowboys is if student manager turned player Tanner Taylor gets on the floor. And that doesn't seem like much of a likelihood. So Duncan DeMuth, Yornay, Isaac Likely, Luke Major, one of them is going to be out there at all times at some point on Saturday. All 4 of them were out there with Thomas Azagua. So there's going to be a lot of reliance on these young players. A lot of these players are still going through some growing pains. Yornay has been a player who has really stepped up recently since the dismissals, which left him as OSU's only player taller than 6'8". He's averaging 8 points, 9 rebounds, has at least 2 blocks in every game. So he's a guy who's really stepped up, has avoided foul trouble that really plagued him earlier in the season. I think what it does is it creates a lot of growing opportunities for these guys. Obviously, being freshmen, all expected to be back next season, and being part of a team that should be a lot more competitive, it bodes well for the 2019-2020 season.
Yeah, building in that direction for sure. You mentioned Trey Reeves earlier. I said we'd get back to him. He was a guy that got a scholarship before the season, had been a walk-on previous to that, but needed in this time of, you know, really not having a lot of bodies. We find out, and really kind of surprised to Mike Boynton, found out kind of after the fact that Trey Reeves had broken his foot.
Yeah, he hasn't played since November, so he's not too vital of a piece, but when you're working again with 7, 8, 9 guys, anybody could help. So, but it sounds like he'd been dealing with a stress fracture for a while, and then Mike Boynton just is looking around at the end of practice the other day, and he doesn't know where Trey is. He honestly assumed that Trey Reeves had just gone to the bathroom. Trey Reeves, at the end of every practice, delivers a thought of the day. That was kind of the setup for them awarding him the scholarship for this season. But then Boynton looks over in the corner, and Trey Reeves is in a boot. So just another thing in this season. Boynton joked that he'll have plenty to write a book once it's all said and done.
Boy, there's no doubt about that. I don't know, maybe a tragedy the way this season's going. But the Cowboys get that win on Saturday, and now they get a full week between games. Obviously, the schedule was set long before, but Nathan, it seems like this is a team that can really use as much downtime as they can get, recovery time. I mean, they're not going to have this kind of break again, but to have it at all is pretty important, I would think.
Yeah, Cam McGriff played all of Bedlam, played all 40 minutes, then he played the entire second half. Thomas Azagua played in the entire second half Saturday. So those 2 guys are getting some breathers. That's obviously going to be valuable. Mike Boynton's trying to manage his timeouts better. He's trying to think, how can I use the media timeouts to my advantage? How can I strategically use these timeouts to give these guys as much rest as possible? So obviously a full week off between games will be bring a lot of value to that aspect of it. Obviously, you're playing a challenging Kansas State team, a team that's been really hot since Big 12 play started. So there's a lot of challenges left for the Cowboys. Obviously, Big 12 play is going to be a grind the rest of the way through. But, you know, hopefully this midpoint coming off a victory feels a lot better to have a week off coming off a win than off a loss.
Definitely so. All right, Saturday, K-State at Gallagher Arena. That's when the Cowboys will be on the floor next. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.